I didn't leave a six-figure corporate job to start my business. I left, multiple corporate jobs that just wouldn't pay me. I wasn't in the room. I wasn't a part of the conversation. I never knew where my work went and who it affected or who it impacted. It was just another project thrown on my desk. And for me, that was not okay because I worked really hard to get through college, a lot on my own without a lot of family support and all of that. I did a lot of that by myself. And so they kind of sell you the dream, like get through college, you'll be fine, right? Like go into corporate, you'll be fine. And I was not fine. If I want to create something more, I have to create it myself. Like no one's coming to save me.
Who's ready for some girl talk?
Welcome to Girl Talk. I'm Nicole D. Miller, author, blogger, speaker, hybrid book publisher, and your host. At Girl Talk, we are a safe space for female leaders to engage in healing and edifying conversation. This is your Me Too, empathetic corner, where we have authentic and transformative dialogue designed to uplift and connect high-achieving women like you. Are you looking for a safe space to cultivate sisterhood with other like-minded female bosses? Leave your cape at the door and join the conversation. Hi guys, and welcome to Girl Talk. I'm your host, Nicole D. Miller. This upcoming episode has been brewing in my heart for a while now. It was a part of the CLE Indie Author Expo that I hosted in Cleveland, which I'm proud to say was a major success. The expo featured over 20 indie authors, key literary partners, and was held at Breakthrough Sounds Studio. I had a special Girl Talk segment of the expo for this discussion, featuring Jenna Lear, Butter Khan, and Ari Baker, all of which are indie authors I worked with via N.D. Miller Publishing. I had the honor of partnering with Ari to help ghostwrite her book, Sorry for the Wait, the blessing to edit Butter's book, Layers of Ink, as well as create the interior layout for Jenna's book, Market Your Magic. You guys are probably already familiar with each of these women from prior talks. And as I mentioned in this segment, a lot of our discussions are held at Butter's tattoo shop, Ink Therapy Studio. All of their contact info and book info is in the show notes, so feel free to reach out after this discussion. What I was hoping to get from our chat was encouragement for those who are aspiring writers and authors to tell their story. I believe 100% everyone has a story, and the fact that my background is in business and I never once thought I would ever be a full-time creative or writer is a testament that it can happen for you. Now you'll hear how different everyone's paths have been to this writing journey, as well as the commonalities that thread us all together as indie authors. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and join the conversation. Hi guys, and welcome to Girl Talk. I'm your host, Nicole D. Miller, and I'm super excited for this special indie author fireside chat. I am here with my girls who are fellow authors. We have Butter Khan, Ari Baker, and Jenna Lear, and we're actually filming this at Breakthrough Sounds Studio, so shout out to Breakthrough Sounds, and we're doing a special for the Indie Author Expo. So I just released my sophomore novel, Unfinished Business Lisa, which is now available for sale at NicoleDMiller.com. And you guys know this is a safe space for everyone. It's a place of dialogue, of sisterhood, of edification. We have a myriad of beliefs. We have a myriad of thoughts and feelings, right? But it's a place for us to have an empathetic listening ear. So we leave our capes at the door and we lean on one another and we share through conversation and dialogue. So I'm going to let my fellow indie authors here introduce themselves before we get started.
Hey guys, I'm Butter Khan. I am an indie author of Layers of Ink, Breaking Skin. This is my first book that I have wrote. It is a collection of my my spoken word poetry. I'm also a creative, a visual artist, and a tattoo artist. own Ink Therapy Studio, and Nicole actually, worked with me with my book. So I'm excited to be here. I'm honored, especially alongside some other talented women.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ariel Baker, RN MSN. I am a nurse fitness wellness coach, so I'm certified in personal training. I have my master's in nursing education. I am a new author. My first book is called Sorry for the Wait, which is a memoir of my life, just discussing a lot of the things I went through in relation to my weight, learning how to love myself when the world was telling me all the reasons why I shouldn't. I'm also a life coach. I also teach nursing students in fundamental nursing, and I'm also an autism advocate. So I do a little bit of everything. So I'm so grateful to be here. And Nicole also helped me with my book as well.
All right. Hi, I'm Jenna. I am a brand strategist. I own Blue Louie Studio. I'm also the author of my first book. I think there's a lot of firsts up here, which is great. Market Your Magic. And it's really just a continuation of the work I do with clients. And I'm really on a big mission to help more women entrepreneurs lean into the power of their brand, learn how to scale it and grow it so that you can consistently attract more clients and customers, but also opportunities to be able to share your message and impact more people. And so that's what I do.
And all of these women have been a part of Girl Talk, so no one is a stranger to this space. Often we actually host it at Ink Therapy Studio, which Butter owns. These are all high-achieving, powerful, dynamic women that I'm in good company with, and now we get to share this level of storytelling and authorship. So I want to share with you guys just a little bit of how I got started writing and what motivated me to dive into this arena of being a creative. And I'd love to hear what you guys have to share as well, because I think when we tell our stories and our journeys, that helps unlock other people's dreams and desires. So my background is actually in finance and accounting and bookkeeping. There's nothing creative about accounting. Like, you can get arrested for being a creative accountant. So actually, when I was bored at work, I had a lot of downtime, and I used to read other people's blogs, and I fell in love with reading all over again. I forgot how much I loved reading. So growing up, I was an only child. I was bullied. I didn't have friends. My books became my friends. My mom would take me to the Garfield Heights Library, and that's what I would do on the weekends. So I was a super nerd, you guys. That was just my life. Not knowing that was playing into my purpose of being a writer, because I didn't know that being an avid reader makes you a good writer, right? So as I have all this downtime at work and I'm bored, I'm reading blogs, and it dawns on me to start my own blog. And then I'm reading a blog about heartbreak, and I think, why have I never written my story about heartbreak? I went through a really hard breakup in college. We were engaged. We were serious. This is the love of my life. And I bounced back from it with the help of God and my community. I found myself. I found purpose. And so I wrote a blog post really, really fast called How to Overcome Heartbreak, Recovering from Misguided Love. And as soon as I hit publish, God said, that's the name of your first book. Now, I thought one day I'll write books. I'm a young 20-something whippersnapper. And I'm thinking when I'm old, like 40, which I'm over 40 now, guys, but this is what I thought back then, right? When I'm old and I'm 40, I'll write books. So when God said, this is the name of your first book, I'm like, okay. So by faith, I did. I shared my story in that book, and it was very powerful, and it did reach a lot of people globally with the blog, and I knew, like, okay, there's something here. And so I wrote another book, but it wasn't until the pandemic where I switched gears and wrote fiction, and fiction writing helped me grieve my mother's transition. And I didn't know the power of creative writing and how it is healing, right, until I dove into that space. And now, even though I've done a lot of things, I can't say that I've ever felt more fulfilled than being a creative. So that was a lot, but I wanted to kick us off with my journey, and I'd love to hear how you guys got into a space of being a writer and being a creative, and what your journey has been. So we can start with you, Butter.
Okay. I never thought I would be a writer. It was always interesting to me, the people that wrote or did poetry or any kind of writing, any type of creative writing. My father was very talented with that, and my sister. But being a creative as an artist, I express myself in different areas. What art pretty much like saved my life, and coming out of a very domestic violent marriage, I I felt like I healed getting through raising my 3 boys by myself, and everything was great, whoop-de-doo. And then I had to do this mental health awareness event at my shop when I opened my tattoo studio 4 years ago. And I had to write a speech, and it was really hard. I was all emotional and stuff, and I'm trying to talk, but I had to talk about my past, which I found myself doing that a lot of through my journey, not understanding that every time I spoke, there was at least one person who came to me and said I helped them, that they were seen, that they understood. And I felt that Me Too factor. And I realized how much I released when I spoke, and how much I helped people, and how much more of my purpose was coming through me, through my words, through all of what I thought was dark things, but it was something I needed in my life to help me, to teach me. So I started writing poetry. Everybody kept saying, you need a book, you need a book. And I was like, yeah, I only have enough. I got like 12 poems. I don't know. If I ever write enough, I'll go ahead and write a book. Well, the more I wrote, the more I poured out, the more I healed, the more I cleansed, the more I helped, the more poetry I got. And I was like, oh, I got something else to say. So eventually I got enough poetry. And I just decided, it was like, I think around January of last year, I started writing. And I wanted to have it done by my birthday, May 7th, and I did. That was my book launch. That was my first book, and the first of, God willing, many to come. And so, doing this, I feel like I was on the right path, and I'm so happy that I did, because I'm still getting responses of, you helped me, I understood, this is a testimony. You don't realize how many people need to hear these words, and you never know who you're helping when you talk to them. So that's pretty much my journey of my first book, and I'm inspired to do more.
Oh, well, I feel like that's such a weighted question. I was pushed into my glory, and this was not according to the plan for me. Writing a book, and Nicole knows that directly. I've always been a person a little bit uncomfortable in my skin, even though like my outward appearance appears differently, like I'm very confident. I was always just in a mode of second guessing myself, even as a little kid. And the plan was just always to, well, I want to become a lawyer and then do that, or I want to become a nurse. And I was pushed into that because I had a child early at 19, and same thing with becoming, I'm a fitness instructor. Never wanted to do that because I didn't want the attention or the eyes on me, but someone saw something in me. Same thing with the book. I made a comment to Nicole, like, my friends said I should write a book because they knew my story. They knew how much I held and a lot of the trauma I had went through in my life in relation to body dysmorphia and eating disorders, and finding out my son had autism, and being in a relationship that just failed, and being in an abusive relationship, and just not knowing where I wanted to be at in life in my 20s, late 20s, feeling like I should have been exactly where I planned, but God said no, something else. And I mentioned it to her, and she said, tell me more about that. And I was like, I really struggle with my weight. I really struggle with my appearance. It doesn't matter what I do, I'm just never satisfied. And that's a personality trait. I can accomplish all these things, check all these things off a list, and I'm still never satisfied. And when I told her my story, we found out that we related in many of the same properties. So just like with many other things in my life, with becoming a teacher or becoming an instructor, like God pushed me into the opposite direction of what I saw myself in. So that's how I started with the book, Sorry for the Weight, a memoir. I didn't want to just talk about weight loss because it's so trivial and so surface level. Oh, I want to lose 5 pounds. No one talks about how you reach that goal and you still hate yourself. No one talks about how you accomplish all these things and you walk past a glass and you can't bear to look at yourself in the mirror. No one talks about all the things that follow you from trauma in relation to when you was a kid, and the things that your parents said to you that stuck with you into when you was 35, almost 40 years old. So yes, that's how I started writing my book. I've always loved people. My sister has cerebral palsy. My grandmother was schizophrenic, so I always was placed in environments where I had to pour into other people and never really learned how to pour into myself until I got 30-something. So that's how I got here.
Beautiful.
Can you do me a favor, Nicole? Can you repeat the question? Just
What led to your journey of writing your book? And I shared about mine being a blogger, remembering how much I loved reading, and opening up about my first heartbreak.
Yeah, I don't think the plan, much like you guys have said, it's like I don't think the plan was to be an author, but as it's kind of unfolded, I've realized I became an author the same way I became a business owner. It really kind of went hand in hand with the fact that I've always felt like I wanted to create more impact in the world, and that, I was grateful for corporate, take that with a grain of salt, because I learned a lot, but it was also very damaging for me. I didn't leave a 6-figure corporate job to start my business. I left multiple corporate jobs that just wouldn't pay me. I wasn't in the room. I wasn't a part of the conversation. I never knew where my work went and who it affected or who it impacted. It was just another project thrown on my desk. And for me, that was not okay, because I worked really hard to get through college, a lot on my own without a lot of family support and all of that. I did a lot of that by myself. And so they kind of sell you the dream, like, get through college, you'll be fine, right? Like, go into corporate, you'll be fine. And I was not fine. So I was like, what is wrong with me? And so without going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole of that whole journey, I realized that if I want to create something more, I have to create it myself. Like, no one's coming to save me. And so I took a leap of faith and started my business. And very much that same way, I went to a random event in Chicago following a leader that I appreciate how she leads and what she teaches around writing books. I was just there to receive. I wasn't like, yeah, we're going to write a book, and very much to soak up all the inspiration from that experience. But she talked about what it was like to lead a movement. Not just start a business and not be in the transactional energy that I think is, comes standard with owning a business, but what it means to lead a movement, to help others, to impact others. And that raised my kind of awareness, because I don't want to take the time for therapy to talk about, putting my whole life story into a book and then, what comes up to heal that, right? But I know that at the end of the day, I have a mission, I have a message, and I want to be able to help more people. And so I was sitting in Chicago in that conference, and I was like, it kind of dawned on me, like, duh, you can take the branding and marketing system that you've built within your own business that you teach your clients, you can put it into a book. And so I think the beautiful thing about writing the book is it took maybe 2 or 3 years for me, because I committed to it being a passion project, to not try to rush to get it done like another, business opportunity, but rather to kind of share a little bit about my journey and how I broke the corporate cycle, how I started a business, how I hit success, and also how I failed, and who I am. And I put that into the book as well, in addition to, my signature brand process. And I know that not everyone may be able to work with me within my business, but I can get this book into so many others' hands that it will impact at some level far more than I can do just as an individual leader. So that was really kind of the story behind the book.
Thank you guys for sharing vulnerably and authentically, as we do here at Girl Talk. And I think the thing that threads us all together is we weren't really seeking this out. Like, purpose found us. Like, we said yes to purpose, and then it unfolded, and being an author was a part of that purpose, right? One of my thoughts is, what are vulnerable moments that you either share in your book or you maybe went through behind the scenes in the writing of your book? When I think about my first book, it was a tell-all of a really messy breakup that I had, and I was nervous to share that authentically, with my future audience. But what motivated me was that it could help others. So even with my fiction writing, the characters are going through hard things that I myself have went through. One of the main plots in Unfinished Business, Lisa, is the estrangement of her father. So in writing it, I'm like, oh, God, I got to deal with this. I didn't know this is what the book was about to be about. So now I'm dealing with all my daddy issues as she's dealing with her daddy issues. I'm like, of course, But pushing through, even getting my own healing through writing. So I'd love to hear about some of your challenging moments, vulnerable moments that you either shared about or just went through behind the scenes. Ari, would you like to start?
Girl, I'm scared. Oh, man. I remember when me and Nicole first started writing this book. Oh, my God. It was so hard for me because you ever see yourself from outside looking in? I was screaming at myself, girl, get up, get up. Every time I would tell her, like, things that would happen in my life, and next week we would come and join back, and then she had helped me with the writing the chapters. She read the chapters for me, we read them through, and I was like, I sound so weak. So I was in an awful relationship for a couple of years with a person who was my abuser, who I'm still very much in close proximity to, and that's a challenge in itself. Just even wanting to talk about it because wondering what the pushback is going to be. Like, I remember when I came out to defend myself and advocate for myself before the book, no one believed me. You know, as a woman, you can say, hey, this person's abusing me, and everyone will say to you, well, we don't believe you. Well, why would someone so nice treat you this way? And you know what I'm trying to say? Like, the victim becomes the person to blame, and then when things go wrong and the victim doesn't reach out to anybody, they say, well, how come you didn't speak up? You know, so you always caught in that catch-22. But anyways, to circle back, it was parts in the book that showed me being very mentally weak. He would abuse me, I would go back, or I would advocate for him or lie for him. Times where I would embarrass myself, and I just didn't want the public to know. I was so embarrassed about how I had compromised my values as a woman because, again, my outward appearance, I carry myself in a very particular way, very distinguished. I try to stay out of mess. So when people read the book, they was like, what? We can't believe. Yeah, I was pink slipped. I was in a bathroom. I locked the door. I threatened to kill myself. They had to break the door down to come, you know, make sure that I was still safe. I had to involve the father of my child to protect me from another man. You know, that's embarrassing. I'm a popular person in the community. No one wants to talk about stuff like that, but I realized it needed to be talked about because, like Nicole said, I found therapy in it. You know, I had reached out to a therapist when I was 31, and it helped me tremendously. But as we were going through the chapters and we were reading, I would just cry because I'd be like, wow, like, I'm not who I was. You know, you see the growth, you see the progression, you see the elevation. A lot of times, I was just talking to somebody else, body dysmorphia can translate into the mind. Like cognition dysmorphia, you can very much be a person who's transitioned and elevated forward, and you can still see yourself as that little girl that's still traumatized. And so the book helped me to see, it helped me to actualize myself into where I really am right now opposed to where I was. So, yes, that's a traumatic part in the book. Oh, well, we go through things.
Oh man, I actually want to talk about like it came with its own challenges, but if I can like go on the kind of the other side of the spectrum, when I started this process, like I made the intention that this gets to be like my heart. This gets to be, for lack of a better term, fun. Like this gets to be my opportunity to be in reflection of my journey and everything that I've done to get to where I am as a business owner and a leader and deeper than that, like a healed human and all of that. So there was a lot of challenges around my journey that led to writing this. I would say my challenges with this were logistical, like publishing, like all that, which is why you have Nicole, right? But something that I'll always cherish in this first book in this process, in putting the intention in, it gets to be fun, it gets to be a passion, I get to kind of follow the whim and the whimsy, is I took my book to different countries and wrote from different countries. And so, you know, I wrote half of it by poolside in Punta Cana, and I wrote a couple chapters while I was in the Caribbean on a business cruise. That sounds very luxurious, but these were like, you know, commitments that I made to continuing to follow the path of this gets to be my heart. This gets to be about how I'm choosing different. I'm choosing a different path, life, leadership, all of that. And then just when I was ready to publish it, I took a step back and I was literally like, here, like I'm going to put it out in the world. And then, I couldn't quite figure out the publishing. And back then I wasn't sure that's what you did, or else I would have been like, Nicole, right? Like right away. And what happened was perfectly unplanned. That next year I took a sabbatical. And so I pretty much stopped almost everything. And that same year, I decided I'm going to go to Italy on this next retreat. And I took my book and I completely edited all of it in Italy. I sat there and did it for like 10 hours straight, also by a pool. So, but, all that's to say, and different reasons why it took so long to come out, I'll always look back to this piece of work and cherish like the commitments I made to be able to write it from a place that brings me joy and all these different countries and all these different experiences. So for me personally, that is very much a part of this book journey.
Ooh, okay. Well, the hard part about my book, since it's poetry, is very personal, and it's about everything I've been through. Nothing is made up of like, I wonder what it would be like. Well, actually, there's a poem, but it's coming from me, about things I haven't got to experience. So it's trying to speak and manifesting things. But the really hard part about my book was feeling similar to what Ari was speaking on about the embarrassment. I felt ashamed. I felt like damn, you in your 40s now, like, and this was your life, and you're, when people know some of what you go through, the first thing they be like, well, you had to love him at some point, why'd you stay so long? And at one of my poems, my first one I ever wrote, there's a line where I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and says I went 8 years. I went from clueless to stuck to fear. Because that was the answer. I got tired of trying to explain to everyone. And it's like, why do I have to keep explaining to you? You didn't come to my age. You didn't come help me. And then I was too embarrassed to tell the gory things that happened to me. So it was like really hard to be honest and just release all of that and say, but you are here. But you got through it.
In this conversation, most of us shared we did not seek our paths. Our paths found us. We also all went through these difficult things that we turned into something positive. Ari opens up about battling eating disorders and body dysmorphia. Butter overcame a domestic abusive marriage and raised 3 boys as a single mom. Jenna was faced with a plethora of toxic, abusive work environments and is now thriving as an entrepreneur. My own writing journey kicked off with telling my story of my first heartbreak, and every book I've written since has been birthed out of pain. I hope that encourages you that those hard, traumatic things can be used to catapult you further into purpose. I'm reminded of the scripture, Romans 8:28. All things work together for the good, for those who love the Lord. A topic we also discuss is the need to be vulnerable. Ari and Butter open up about the fear of being criticized for their actions and judged by their weaknesses. But at the end of the day, you never know who will relate to your story or who your book will help. That was my biggest motivator for writing How to Overcome Heartbreak. I knew others would be helped by my story, and I was right. But what I didn't expect was that writing that first book was really a first step to walking out a path of purpose and everything else that unfolded since. Well, I hope you guys are more equipped and encouraged to pursue your purpose and calling. Even if you're not called to be a writer or a full-time creative, you do have a purpose. Listen to that nagging inner voice that won't leave you alone to do the thing you've been running from for so long. I guarantee you won't regret trying. And make sure you tune in to part 2 of this message on indie authorship. And remember, I attract amazing women doing amazing things. So guess what, sis? That means you're amazing. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. To continue the conversation, join our Girl Talk community by following @GirlTalkCLE on Instagram and Facebook.com/HTOHB, where you can join the Girl Talk Facebook group. You can follow me personally on Instagram @HTOHB, on Facebook.com/HTOHB, and at YouTube.com @HTOHB. Feel free to reach out via email info@indiemillerpublishing.com. If you're a writer who wants to take the next steps into becoming a published author, you can book a one-on-one consultation at indiemiller.pub. Just let me know you heard about my publishing house through Girl Talk, and I'll give you a 50% discount on our one-on-one. If you'd like weekly inspirational nuggets, you can subscribe to my blog and monthly newsletter at NicoleDmiller.com, where you can learn more about me and my writings. Till next time.